What's up, founders and investors? Welcome back to Next Round Ready. I'm your host, Chris. Today we have a special guest and amazing founder, Isaac from ArcLydian. Isaac, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Chris. I appreciate it.
So let's start here. How did you get this idea? Where'd the inspiration come from?
All right. Essentially what we do is we give founders and executive teams the ability to not just get insights fast, but to be able to actually have all of the knowledge of their industry and their business history help to create a plan and predict the future. And with that, be able to take action on that plan in half the time. And honestly, what kind of came to me was my time in the military, managing a lot of assets and managing personnel and needing to take in a lot of data and make fast decisions that were very time sensitive and critical. You couldn't really get those decisions wrong. And so it was having to understand the problems with just data being everywhere and not quite understanding what all those data points are saying. But then fast forward a few years after the military and running a few businesses, decided to go all in on a brick and mortar. And I bought like a local business, and being young and naive, it ended up failing, and I lost everything. And I was thinking like, man, I don't want other founders to go through what I went through. And so I wanted to create a tool that helped equip them with everything that they needed to be successful. And a lot of that just came to, we think we know our business, but honestly, like if you don't know the data is the language of your business. Your language is trying to talk to you. And you should do more than just using a tool that says, oh, you can talk to your data. No, your business should talk to you. It should highlight when there's problems. It should highlight when it thinks that the direction of the industry is going somewhere, and it should be able to actually move on its own. So we created a tool that can do it.
So I'd love to hear like what the conviction was for you to know that this could be a business. Because I understand what you're saying, and I totally agree that a lot of founders and business owners in general don't really have a good understanding of the data in their companies. But how did you go from that to like, okay, I can make a viable business out of this? That's a huge transition.
Yeah, I've always been fascinated with just business in general, and as I started to think about, how can I solve this problem, I went and talked to a few other, business owners, and essentially it was kind of an idea that was, when I presented it, they were like, yeah, I'll buy it. And I was like, I don't have it yet, right? And so I was like, okay, I need to make something. Me not being of a technical background, I decided to go back to school. I got accepted somehow, got accepted into a master's program for computer science for AI and machine learning with a emphasis in ethical innovation of AI. And I met a really awesome guy who's also now my co-founder. And together we decided to like tackle the hardest problem we could find, which was live data streaming for an e-com business. So it has like 25,000 plus SKUs across multiple storefronts, and we were able to like pretty much live integrate data streaming, which we come to find out now. I mean, I'm naive. I don't know anybody to tell me no, like that's dumb. You can't do that. And so me and him figured it out, and me learning how to code and getting better through that process, we're able to live stream 25,000 plus SKUs of data and aggregate that and actually then create analytics based off of it. And so I was like, okay, we can actually make this. I know we can. We just tackled one of the hardest problems that a lot of companies have outside of like maybe Netflix. No one really can figure that out. So we decided, let's do it. And so yeah, we're building it out. We have a few paid pilot partners already that are helping us kind of create the templates of these models that we're building and the agent structures within those models, and we're deploying them now.
Yeah, I want to ask you about traction. That was my next question. It's like, because you had that confirmation so early before you even had a product, like I gotta know, what are like the traction signals you have right now in terms of users or revenue, even partnerships?
Yeah. So, I I was wildly surprised with kind of how fast this started to take off. And so we had that first paid pilot, and then we have another. That first paid pilot is an Inc. 5000 list company, And then our second paid pilot is a Profit 100, and Canada's like top 100 growing startups. And we actually have quite a few more in our sales pipeline now. One of those, I can't really give too much information away, but one of them is really big. And actually, it's a really good partnership, and they have about 800 companies in their portfolio and want to incorporate SuperSuite into their
Okay,
offerings.
you don't have to say more. Don't ruin that pipeline. I do not want
I don't
you.
want to ruin it.
I
But
get it. I totally
yeah,
understand.
so it's good, but with that too, another partnership was we had an offer letter from Capital Factory in Austin, Texas, for their All Access fund, and so that it's not a monetary investment, but they pay for our office space, a bunch of credits towards like AWS and Google Cloud. And funny story, I just kind of was like, I can't get a hold of anybody there, so I decided to just fly me and my co-founder out to Texas, and we showed up at their door, and I was like, yeah, I have a meeting with so and so, and I looked up his picture on Instagram and or on LinkedIn, and I got onto the floor, and then we just started searching until we found him, and then just like cold pitched ourselves right there, and he was like, I really like this. Next thing we know, we were getting an offer letter from them for the all access.
Yeah, I think that's the way a lot of founders have to work is be a little more gritty, especially in this traction phase of trying to show that it works, because that's what's going to help you stand out. Like if you don't have massive crazy numbers that a lot of investors want to see, you got to have some kind of partnership, some kind of pipeline where you can show that you have access to customers, and that's going to get you more attention. And then doing outrageous things and being backed by that, that's how you have staying power where investors actually want to build that relationship and work with you in some kind of way. So at this point, can you explain how somebody actually uses the product? How are customers getting results?
Yeah, so right now we're still in this like kind of beta pilot partner phase. I was a online coach in the past for like health and fitness in a past life, and so I kind of did that while I was in the military to help make supplemental income. And one of the things that I did when I would get a new client in, and every client is different. I helped people with like perimenopause, and I've helped people with all different kinds of things. And when I get a new client, I would end up making their program a template because it was easy to tailor from, and I wouldn't have to make a new one from scratch when I got a client who had the same pain points, the same problems. So now every time I'm taking that same approach. When we get a customer from a specific industry or specific vertical, when we work with them to tailor and fine tune the models and the agents to what they need, it is now a template. And every customer we get from those verticals, we don't actually have to then go in and customize anything. It becomes a plug and play process. So right now we're in the fine tuning and building of these pilot partners. It's at the point now though where word's getting out and people are kind of knocking on the door.
That's beautiful, man. That's when you know you got something. And I think another way you know you got something is if you have competition. Who are some of your direct competitors?
Great question. So what comes to mind is some of the traditional BI tools that are now taking that step to talking to your data. So thinking like Power BI from Microsoft or ThoughtSpot or Click, they're kind of starting to work towards the more agentic frame points of business intelligence. We just realized that there's some faulty programming in that in terms of just having a traditional BI tool and slapping an LLM onto it and saying it's AI powered. Instead, we're actually taking a more native AI approach and building new AI technologies to actually power these tools.
Yeah, I think that's another thing in the AI space that some investors have directly told me that they want more founders to do is to build their actual own AI native stuff instead of this is like a wrapper. Like the wrapper phase is pretty much done, man, because there have been so many that have been built. Now you got vibe coding out there. You have new competitors popping up overnight. And on top of that, one of the big dogs can just decide to make your product and you're out of business because you don't have anything you've really built it on. You don't have your own information, your own, like you said, your own templates to build off of. And a lot of founders in the AI space are going to learn this the hard way. I think it's going to be a painful truth.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
So let's talk about the fundraise. So why are you raising now? Like how much are you raising? How do you plan on deploying the capital?
Yeah, so we are raising 1 million for our pre-seed. Realizing right now, after again, the potential partnerships that we have in the works, realizing that we might end up raising a seed sooner than we anticipated. But really, it's to be able to actually fulfill on the demand. We want to be able to not just get an MVP out, but actually get a V1, out to these pilots that we can see something that isn't just, they say your first version makes you cringe, right?
Yeah.
And I'm a perfectionist at heart, so it's like I have to kind of force myself to be okay with letting something go that's not what I want necessarily, but that doesn't mean I need to be okay with letting it stay there. And so I'm
Yeah.
already thinking of how can we tailor this V1 to be something where it is. And with this MVP, it's not the technology that we want to build that powers it. So right now we're using a multimodal approach and a multi-agent approach. I shouldn't say multimodal, multi-model approach. So the way we think agent-to-agent frameworks, or model-to-model frameworks. So each agent has their own models, and the models are working together to solve complex problems. And so right now we're using closed source or open source models and self-hosting them in the cloud in order to fine-tune and get them to have security around companies' data. But we want to actually build our own models that are completely pre-trained and specialists within their own field, within certain verticals. And so that's what we really want to use this funding to build up the team and to start also the R&D for those models.
Okay, so what type of investors are you looking to work with? VCs only or some angel investors? Like, what's on your radar?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely not opposed to any of them. What I care more about is the role they take on. It can be a VC, it can be an angel, it can be a syndicate. It doesn't really matter. What I care about is a company that actually cares about the vision. We want investors who genuinely see the future that we are envisioning, and that something about it just makes them excited and they want to be a part of that journey. Because honestly, we could bootstrap this if we want to. I don't necessarily need the investment. The investment will actually help us scale faster, and with that, scale smarter. And I say that because, when you're going fast, you have to break a few things sometimes in order to really see success. And in breaking a few things, that actually allows you to move smarter at times. And so bootstrapping, you have to be a lot slower, a lot more meticulous. And so we're looking for investors who understand, like, hey, this company wants to scale, this company wants to go fast, and we want to be a part of that and to help and guide and nurture that as much as possible.
And so with that kind of mindset, you're not approaching this from a more desperate perspective that I think a lot of founders have. So what's your fundraising timeline? Like, when would you want to have this closed?
Yeah, I mean, we're looking to close by the end of April. That being said, it's because we have a lot of demand. I don't want to tell good opportunities no. I will if I have to, but I don't want to. It's you want to strike while that iron's hot, and you want to be tip of the spear and beat competition out with speed, because I do believe in this day and age, speed's a moat, right? So
Yeah.
I want to move fast. So we're looking at end of April of really being able to close out our fund.
Okay. And this is my last question. This is probably the most important thing I'm getting from every investor right now. I've added like maybe 50 in my network in the last week, and it's just been insane because I'm getting the same answers to all my questions in my research. And it's kind of crazy, but then again, it makes sense, right? Every investor is massively concerned about distribution. They want to know, how can you distribute this product? How can you get access to customers and generate the sales a lot easier, specifically for a lot of AI companies like yours? Do you have a tight answer to that just yet?
Yeah, that's a great question, Chris. And actually, I was talking to someone about this today. We realize that the startup ecosystem is so enriched right now with the AI, adoption coming on, and we realize we could try and go after just enterprise level companies and make one sale a quarter, or something like that. But I realize, like, no, for me, it's this tool. Like, if you're gonna be a startup, you realize you're gonna be facing Goliaths. And if you're going to face Goliath, be David. And our tool is the stones, right? Our tool is the sling. And so our goal is, if we can help a company just by creating a more tight-knit and predictive and interactive AI infrastructure, we immediately improve their valuation. And so if a startup wants to go to acquisition, then we can help them get there faster with a higher valuation, a higher dollar amount. And so if they sell, then guess what? That company buys it. Unless they cannibalize it, they get SuperSuite along with it, which is our product. And so if that company likes SuperSuite, they're going to be thinking, man, why aren't we using this for the rest of our departments? And that's where we can kind of backdoor our way into enterprise sales. So we realized that the startup ecosystem, especially like growth stage startups, that's our sweet spot for market entry. But the end goal with that is to grow with them. As they grow, as they gain revenue, it's because we're helping power that growth and
Yeah.
partnering with them. And next thing we know, they're either enterprises themselves or they are sold to enterprises, and now we're a part of that.
Man, that's a good way to put it. You ready? You're ready. I can say from that answer, you got it. Isaac, please let the investors listening know where they can find you.
Yeah, so you can definitely just email me at Isaac at Arklydian. .com, ArkLydian.com, and then you can also go to Arklydian.com website, check it out, and let us know if you want to be a part of this.
All right, man. Thank you so much for being here, being an amazing guest.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate it.